Greetings, clarinetophiles and clarinetophilettes across the fruited plain and across the seas and out to no man knows where, or a woman for that fact. Today, we're going to be talking about something that's very rare here in America,
A controversial subject.
Can you imagine that? A controversial subject in America. What will they think of next? Well, anyway, I did find one, and it may be subversive, but I'm going to share it with you today. And it's about mouthpiece mythologies. Try to say that 5 times in a row. Actually, don't. Anyway, if you're interested in mouthpiece mythologies, then hang on because we're going to be talking about them in just the next few minutes. Well, exactly what is mouthpiece mythology? Well, one has to do with the magic pixie dust, has to do with the magic formula that only a few people knew, that was stolen from Gollum in the fires of Mordor and forged there and hidden in the jungles and so on and so forth. It's nonsense. It's complete nonsense, people, okay? Now, what am I saying? Am I saying that materials don't matter at all? No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that materials are only one critical factor among several critical factors. Now, let me give you an example. Instead of like going through stuff in detail so much, let me give you an anecdotal sharing here from my own experience. For several years, I made mouthpieces that were made. The shells were made by this company in France, and they were very good. And the mouthpieces had a very dark sound. And I always considered that this is superior rubber. And in fact, they did not get their rubber from the same place. Say Van Doren gets their rubber, and this is superior rubber here because the sounds are nice and dark and it's good focused, concentrated sound, good designs on the inside and so on and so forth. But I always considered that the mouthpiece rubber was really superior. And that went along for some time. And then some years later, I got a batch of mouthpieces from the manufacturer to work on. And they sounded like I don't know, the upper register when you get above the staff sounded like you wouldn't want to hear it. It's like taking an ice pick in your ear, just awful. And the more you push the dynamic, the worse and the brighter and edgier the sound got. And I looked at the mouthpieces, and the interior was the same. The outside appeared to be the same. The chamber was the same. The chamber depth and everything was the same until I began to look at the beak. And the beak slope had been cut too deep, and the mouthpiece was very thin at the very tip of the mouthpiece. It had come down, thinned out quite a bit. And then I learned that this manufacturer had sold the mouthpiece making company to someone else. So they were producing mouthpieces, but they didn't know what they were doing. And someone misadjusted the machining of the beaks, and the beaks were too thin. Everything else was fine. Everything else was fine. Just that one thing that made the difference was the beak slope, and it sounded absolutely terrible. The mouthpieces were unusable. I can't remember, it's a batch of like maybe 24 mouthpieces. Absolutely unusable. I mean, I wouldn't give them to my dog because I'd be afraid the SPCA would be on my back, or whatever that group is. Anyway, so there was a design flaw, a manufacturing flaw from the design that ruined a mouthpiece. And I said, what happened to my beautiful dark sound? What happened to my beautiful superior rubber? Well, it was gone because the manufacturing flaw was there. What's my point? My point is that it's not just the rubber of a mouthpiece, or it's not just this or that, or the stamp that's on the mouthpiece or whatever that makes the thing good. It's not the magic pixie dust made by some ancient mouthpiece maker in remote Switzerland, back in the 1930s. No, it's not that. None of it. A great mouthpiece is a combination of good and proper materials with excellent design. So you know your materials and you know your design and you know how to design the mouthpiece to get the results that you're looking for. So that's what I'm sharing with you. And there's several different materials that you can use that will give you beautiful results if your design and it basically appropriately fits the material you're working with. I've played plastic mouthpieces that had really good solid sounds and good focus and good stability because they were designed properly in every respect. So that's my lesson. Then how can you use this for yourself if you accept my premise here? Well, first of all, don't go looking in the past and paying $1,000 for a mouthpiece that doesn't play just because it's said to have the magic pixie dust, or it was played by somebody, or it was made by somebody. It had a certain stamp on it. That's the dumbest thing that you can do, and it'll empty your wallet very quickly. I had a professional clarinet player tell me one time that he had 30 mouthpieces, so this extremely famous mouthpiece maker from the past, and he said, I hate every one of them. I hate every one of them. And I tested them, and I played them, and I measured them, and they were completely different. They came from different sources. The facings were all over the place. They were the only thing consistent was the name that was stamped on the mouthpiece. And he said, I could sell this set right here, maybe for, I could get a Jaguar for this set of mouthpieces. Mouthpieces just because they had a stamp on them, not because they actually did anything. And when you buy a mouthpiece, nobody's going to give you a Jaguar for it, okay? When you buy a mouthpiece, you better damn well make sure that it plays for you, that it really plays and it really does things. You better know how to test a mouthpiece. You better know especially that the pitch is correct on the mouthpiece and that the focus and stability is correct if you're a classical clarinet player, especially when you play up high, okay? All those things are critical. What's stamped on the mouthpiece itself, what people say about it, it doesn't mean anything. You have to learn, develop your own knowledge, develop your own objective testings and all that so that you know what you've got and stop depending on the hearsay and the pixie dust mythologies that you hear that have been flying around the clarinet community. And I'll tell you, it makes me completely nauseous because so many clarinet players not only have gotten inadequate equipment, but they have paid enormous amounts of money for it, and it doesn't deliver what it promised or what was promised to you. So that's my lesson for you today. If you think about this stuff, you really learn about mouthpieces instead of relying on some kind of mythologies or labels or this or that, you're going to be a lot better off. You're going to have better equipment. You're going to play better. You're going to be happier, and you're going to have a little more money in your pockets. Now, I want to share this one thing with you that I think is something that you should take to heart, and that is clarinet players have never had it better than they have it right now. Don't go back in the past because back then you were told that, oh, this is a great mouthpiece and that's a great mouthpiece, and he was a magic player and he had this magic pixie dust mouthpiece, and you just need to get that, and that's going to give you. That's, as I said, that's complete nonsense. Stop looking in the past. You have extremely well-made mouthpieces right here at your fingertips by several makers, including myself. But the thing is that back then, well, why were they so famous? Well, I'll have to say this: in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. At that, there were periods of time that the only choice that you had was to go to maybe some private mouthpiece maker who could, after making 10 or 12 or 15 mouthpieces, could turn out one that seemed to be exceptional, or going to the store and buying an HS Star. And that was the situation back then. Well, that's not the situation today. We have a lot of good mouthpiece makers offering a variety of mouthpieces that give you a variety of styles and shapes, colors, pitches, and so on and so forth. So don't be taken in by the mouthpiece mythology, okay? Because it ain't so, Joe.